Hello everybody and welcome to week 8. This week you'll learn about logos and pathos again, but this time we're going to put them in the context of opposing and refuting a paragraph, which is a major part of an argumentative essay. We're going to work on caged bird, commas, and semicolons. So first of all, overview. Here, you can look through this material yourself. You're watching this video right now. Before I forget, don't look at the date here, only look at the date in your Canvas shell, because I use this for semester to semester. There are four quizzes: commas, semicolons, caged bird. Remember, within comma and semicolon, if you click on it, embedded are a video for you to watch before you take the quiz. Here, the quiz here, essay models and phrases. Please make sure you watch this first and do well on it, because it will come down and help you with the prompt. So the remainder of this video is going to talk about the prompt. So if we come in here for the discussion board, I'm going to open up the prompt. I think that would be best. Let me open it here. That way I can make it as large as I want. I downloaded it actually. Excuse me one second. So if you take a look here, after you've done the homework assignment, you're going to realize that when you're going to bring in a counter argument or an opposing viewpoint argument, you're going to want to introduce it. You're going to concede or acknowledge that they have valid points, your opposition does. Then you're going to counter that argument, or you're going to refute. You're going to spin it back to yourself, and then you're going to introduce a conclusion or a closing. I would probably rather use the word closing. A closing is the last sentence of the paragraph, your opposing paragraph. Well, how are you going to do this? Well, you're actually going to take and write a paragraph based on your ACLU logos and pathos, or both, discussion board from last week. So you'll have to look at the week 7 to look at the advertisement of the electric chair again. You are either pro logos, pro pathos, or pro both. It doesn't matter, but if you're pro logos, you're going to bring in an opposing view of pathos. If you're pro pathos, you'll bring in an opposing paragraph of logos. If you chose that you thought that the advertisement was both logos and pathos, just choose one of those to bring in the counter argument against. And how are you going to do that? Well, you're going to write a paragraph, an opposing paragraph. And here's how you'll set it up. You'll have your heading, the title, and then you're going to type in an opposing paragraph. Now, per the discussion board prompt for this week, you have to bring in at least one in-text citation from the ACLU advertisement. So this is how I would do it. Many people claim that this ACLU ad played more on the viewer's pathos than it did on logos. So you can tell by this, I'm introducing the topic sentence for the opposing paragraph. You can tell that I was pro-logos, but I'm also saying, you know what, there are people who believe that it was more pathos. So what I put here in bold was I introduced the opposing in the topic sentence. If you come back up here, check right here, let me put that here. Check. I just did that. Then in the paragraph, you're going to want to add these. So let's go back down. So then you're going to want to talk about, you're going to concede or say yes, you're going to acknowledge that they do have some certain viewpoints that are correct. And then you're going to put after that in parentheses, conceded or acknowledged viewpoints. Then you're going to say, however, blah, 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 blah. You're going to spin it back to your side, and after you're done with that, you'll put refute or spin it back to my side in parentheses so I can find it easily. And then the last thing of this paragraph, your opposing paragraph, would be your closing sentence. And after you've done the assignment, you realize there are 4 or 5 different ways you can close this. But one good way is, overall, state your thesis statement again in other words. Make it come full circle. Don't use the same exact word for word thesis statement, but it is good to bring it back. It also is good to bring the thesis statement back in here because you're reminding your reader what the thesis was. And then the last part you'll need is works cited, which would be the ACLU ad. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And before I end there, let me come back up here. So you're going to introduce it, concede or acknowledge, counter or refute, put these in parentheses in the paragraph, and then here I like the word closing better. So, and again, you can label each of these. You can use it after the sentence, or if you use 2 or 3 sentences to complete one of these parts, only put it after all of it is finished. And that's good. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.